if you find yourself in impatience, doesn't mean game over. It means you now get to make a different choice. If you have the awareness, oh, I'm acting from impatience right now, you have the ability to change the trajectory of that decision and move into a new decision, which is now take a deep breath, take a step back, check your body, get connected to the big picture, and give yourself some grace. So now you can make a different decision. And then you move into patience. And if it needs an apology along with it, then make that apology.
Yeah.
If you're, in a communication type, you know what, I really let my impatience get the better of me. And that's not truly what I want, but it's kind of powerful and I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Then just, it's okay to say that. See, that's the
And that's
vulnerable.
really okay to say to your kids too.
Yes.
And I really have, like, if I'm struggling with any of that and that pops up, that's I owe them an apology, and I do.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Lisa Allshafer, empowerment life coach and author.
And I'm Sondra Pariser, health and wellness entrepreneur and truth speaker and truth seeker.
And today's episode is about patience, the virtue that keeps on giving.
This is a really funny one that I happen to find myself in the experience. I'm not so close to the camera anymore, folks. Playing around with a new phone and a new camera, and I have no makeup on, mostly because I've spent the last handful of days in tears. And it's about processing, it's about patience, it's about growth, and it's about all things that Lisa and I have been sharing with you. So you guys get me as candid as can be today as we get to walk you through patience, how it presents, how to embrace it, and how to be aware of it.
Yeah, for sure. And like that like and subscribe button.
Oh yeah, don't
So
forget about
gotta
that.
keep the reminders in. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
But yeah, patience. We're doing this parenting class that I'm facilitating, and obviously with parenting, patience is one of those things that absolutely comes hand in hand when it comes to being a healthy parent. And it's revered as a virtue because it really has a transformative power to change our lives in a positive way and how we interact with the world around us, as well as the world that lives within us. Because when you think about impatience is when you're feeling impatient, you are having an inner rumble inside your inner world, and it often create conflict on the outside as well, whether it's with our kids or our spouse or whoever it is we're in contact with at that time. But ultimately, when we're impatient, we're either in a hurry. That was my big one, is always in a hurry, years and years ago. And so either things aren't happening fast enough, or they're not happening the way we want them to, or we're so future oriented and goal oriented that we no longer are embracing the process because we're just simply wanting to get to the outcome. And that's where we can miss out on so much in life because we're not embracing the journey. And then we can leave a trail of destruction behind us with impatience. Impatience is part of anger, the anger family, and it can really cause a lot of destruction in our lives, both internally and externally, which is why it's such an important subject and why we're going to cover it today.
Yes. Go for it.
All right.
I'm
Well,
just along for the ride right now, because like everything that you're saying right now is like, I had my little breakdown to break through, and there was so much like impatience. And you and I've talked about this, and we've shared this with everybody else. Like, how am I not further along? Right. And I'm not that I feel that way today or over the weekend, but we bumped up against it again in doing a process that was
yeah.
really dark. And it was, wait a second. No, how am I not wherever I'm supposed to be? And some of the stuff that we cover is just a lot of the inner child stuff, which is why it's so easy to take a parenting course
Mhm.
that we're doing right now, and how much I'm learning about me through all of through my children.
Yes, absolutely. And I've said it in the parenting class and probably in the podcast at some point. And that is one of the greatest gifts that I have been given as a result of all the years of work that I've done on myself is patience. It's patience. Now, so much comes with patience. It's not just being calm and collected in your environment and internally and externally. It's got so many benefits to it, which is why it's a virtue, because it is something that will permeate in a positive way throughout your entire life.
Hmm.
It will, so many people are looking for inner peace. Well, you can't get to inner peace without patience. No way, no how. And patience will lead you towards a much more spiritual life. It will lead you to a much more um, connected life with those around you.
Hmm.
If you think about impatience, it can push people away. It can hurt, even if your intention is not to hurt them. It can hurt yourself, because when you're impatient, it can affect your health, your blood pressure, your heart, your nervous system. There's just so much that we are always at choice on. Are we going to go down the impatient route or the patient route? And it may be a journey to get from impatience to patience. I know it was for me, but it's a worthy goal that will change your life for the better in all areas of your life.
And just like you and I've talked about so many times, having awareness into just awareness. Okay, what in the heck is happening to me right now? Well, just sit down for a minute and grab on. And I would say through this most recent experience that, I'm bumping up against, which is just, again, all these layers of questions I've been asking myself my whole life, and trying to get to the root of what does it mean to be me. And then it's deeper than that. What does it mean to be human? And then what does that mean? And then let's go deeper and deeper and deeper, 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 deeper. God. So then you get there and you finally feel like, for me, all of these years of asking, you and I were just talking about this before the podcast, patience, right?
Mm.
So I sit here today, middle of February 2024, and I'm like, I can't believe it. I finally have answers to questions I've been asking my whole life. And the answers are backed up by real facts and science. And, there's verifiable proof of at least some of the dimensions of all of it. And so, that is very exciting place for me to be, but it's also very lonely, because you would think, Lisa, that most people would ask the questions you and I've been asking our whole life, but
Yeah.
I think we all do to a certain extent. So that awareness, we all do, because that is being human, is to go, what, impatience. Okay, so let's take something so, let's zoom in on this one emotion, because it's still an emotion, right? Damn, emotions get me every time. So in what I'm going through right now, in the sense of loneliness, I know I'm not lonely. I don't know how it's better to explain it. It's just a feeling, and it's just a moment. And the reality is I'm never alone, and I could be alone all day long and, go through the math and get lost in all things truth. And, that's just my passion. But patience, like as I was going through this over the weekend, and I love you to death, you helped me go through this process. And in this process, it was like, you, what do I need to do? And the answer was, sit with it. Just sit with it. Don't try and figure it out. Don't try and get the answer. And I did. That was the first time I think I've ever had patience, real patience in my life. And it was hard and it was painful. And you went through it with me. And I had the support of Alan. And Alan was like, do you need to call Jason? And I'm like, oh no, I get to sit here. And it might take days and it might take weeks. And this is why you have no makeup. This is why, let's be real, right?
Mm.
Um, the reality is, like, I'm working, but patience is like, and it was so peaceful to get there. All right,
Yeah.
I'm just going to be this way. It's a short period of time, might be a long period. Either way, the answers will come.
Well, and I think part of it too is that our mind is giving us information that's not always accurate. Like, what's wrong with me, or what's wrong with, it's going for oftentimes the problem, and I've got to figure it out, and the need to know, and the feeling of having control over this whole thing that's happening in the moment, and so forth. And sometimes the answers are not right there. Sometimes even some of the things, especially if it's past life stuff, you may never know exactly why, this deep seated, feeling of loneliness or whatever it might be is coming up. And
Mm.
if it comes up strongly, especially when you've been doing a lot of work, which you have, and so it could have been a deeper layer inside that emotional onion that you are now ready to heal. And so we don't get all of our, which is why patience is part of this process, is because you can't just go in and clear all your stuff in a month or even a year,
It's a
right?
lifetime, kind of.
Right.
It's a lifetime.
It really depends on how much you really want to do. If you
Right.
just want to get some of the outer layers and all that and, whatever, so you can function as, in a healthier way in life, okay, that's cool. But some people like you and I, we want to go in and we really want to heal ourselves to the, as much as we possibly can.
Mhm.
And when you have that kind of commitment to yourself to fully go through the transformational process, it's it's can be decades. It can be a
Mm.
lifetime journey. And I get not everyone and you get not everyone's going to go through all that, but because as you're experiencing, your life actually gets a lot better, but when that deeper layer comes up, it just can throw us off to such a dark place. But see, that darkness has been inside the whole time.
Yep.
And so now, with all the work that you've done and other people who've done the work who come up against this darkness that has been living inside them,
Yeah.
it's now picnic to go through. But at the same time, it's going to direct some part of your life, whether you get to it or not, because it's energy that lives inside you. So you either get to face it head on and do it in a way that's, healing, or you can say, nope, that road's too tough for me. And that's okay too. But you'll get it one this lifetime or the next lifetime, or maybe this year or next year, or maybe 5 years from now or whatever. But it's still going to impact your life in some way because it lowers your vibration.
Yeah.
And to have the courage like you have had, and myself too, I showed you some things that I journaled on around my anger, and back in 2005, it was pretty
Yeah.
gnarly stuff. I had a lot of anger to work through, and sadness and loneliness and things like that as well. And it's just, that's why it's the road less traveled. It's more traveled today than it used to be, is because it's work, but it is worthy of the work we put into it, even though you have moments like you've been having where it gets pretty darn tough. But as the
Yeah.
saying goes, when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Something like that.
No
Yeah.
pain, no gain. There's all sorts
Yeah.
of little
Yeah. Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
and this, you're still moving through it, but you'll come out on the other side of it and you will be a brighter, lighter being.
Yeah. No, and I know, and even, just because patience was the thing that came up, and my wish for everybody here is that, you got we're listening to this you're listening to this podcast because you too are on a quest for search or for healing or for the deeper journey into, processing, emotions, understanding that, it, and in all of this, knowing emotions are not real, but
Emotions are real.
they are real, right? So the mind, no, 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 that's what I'm saying. Like, okay. So you asked me the question as we were processing over the weekend, are you safe?
Yes.
And where I was at when I was in this process with my eyes
Mhm.
closed, was I safe? Didn't feel like it. Like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
so I'm
They're not
bound and
they're not
chained,
necessarily the truth, but they are real.
but
Yes.
they are real, right? No, no, absolutely. That's kind of what it might not be the truth, but it is real.
Yeah.
And then just sitting with it until what happens with feelings, which I find so powerful, especially once you start exercising, you know, all of the acute awareness around what emotions. How am I feeling? Like, just ask yourself that question, right? So if my daughter's pissing me off, which, I say that, but I have nothing but they can really rub you the wrong way, especially when they're not being kind. For me, kindness and lying are the two things for me that can really rub me in an off way. but that's still my emotion, right?
Right.
So it's for me and only me to be able to unpack, dissect, feel, so that we can shift and change it. And
Mhm.
then it feels different. And on this patience thing, kind of coming back to this, and I think we're threading a lot of it all in together. So, but while I'm thinking about this, like as we start to really take, you know, everybody I think has a like a primary emotion. For I'll just say for me, I can get really excited, and in a good way, in a really good way. That's part of my personality code. I'm a yellow. I'm a lot of fun. Um, but that excitement sometimes, and I feel like at this moment right now, and what happened with me over the weekend was, by the way, it was just two people perceiving something completely differently, and there was no meeting in the middle to understand. Would you say that that's a pretty accurate
A
assessment?
good little snapshot. Yes.
Yes. And it was really painful. And something happened to me where I can have conversations with everyone and anyone about anything under the sun, and I don't get typically activated. But something happened and I got really, 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 really activated, but in a way that I think kind of threw me off because it wasn't a normal.
I haven't seen you quite that upset with the energy. You had a lot of energy running through you,
Yeah.
and it was very evident that that was what was happening. But there was you were kind of being with it. You weren't quite ready to let it go yet.
Yeah, because
So
you asked me,
yeah,
you said, "And would you like to do a little processing?" And I'm like, "Nope."
yeah. Yeah, because you were hot and heavy in it. So there's not it's kinda like, when someone's really activated, it's kinda hard to be in that space and allow the feedback to come in and all that until the energy has been really released. But you
Yeah.
did eventually, not in that
Yeah, no, the next day,
the next day,
I
yeah.
went
And you
in and I just went into the bathroom, and I just sat there and I put my hands together and I just kind of guarded my heart a bit. I did my own little process,
Mhm.
and I was like, "What the hell is you know, what the
Yeah,
hell is going on?" And then coming back to the benefits of patience was that I got to this place where I'm like, "Don't even try and figure this thing out right now.
mm,
There is no trying to figure this thing out right now. Just be with it and let it be and try and be aware of it and go from there."
yeah.
And I ended up going, so we were at a corporate event. Alan and I were at a corporate event, and that was kind of Saturday midday or Friday midday. And later on that night, which is something we've never done, he's like, "Let's just get room service and watch This Is Us." So,
With our current show that we both are
yeah, we're
enjoying.
God, This Is Us. Um, and that's what we did at a corporate event. Like we didn't go, like I couldn't get myself to, and this is another weird thing too. And I think that Lisa, this is something new for me. I feel people in a way that I haven't. I mean, so many people in our company are what we call our relatives, right? So there are our relatives within our company, and it's truly a wonderful, a wonderful place for. My husband's been there for almost 33 years and me for 20, and it's wonderful.
Mm,
And we are so loved, and we love, and we are so loved, and we are so supported. And so talk about a really interesting, unique place for me to be, which is amongst my friends and family, um, deep dark inside.
mhm.
And so, God bless Alan for just saying, "Hey, why don't we just tap out for the night?" I'm like, "We've never done this. Like, let's take tap out and take a, because when you're parenting, there's no stopping,
Right.
right? You can't really
Yeah.
stop." But we stopped in it, and then the next day, you and I, got on the phone, and then I was ready to go in, and I was, anyways. So
Yeah.
still, even now, it's like I think that the world is changing so quickly, and that excitement that kind of was my foundational. I love life and I love people, and and it's that's just kind of my, in a bad way, in a good way, kind of the dark and the light, right? Because
Mhm.
it all balances out. It's the beautiful thing about nature.
Yeah.
So in our personalities, right? Because the darkness is always, there's that balancing act. And um the patience right now, even sitting with it right now, I'm like, I don't know what's on the other side of all of this, but I get to show up imperfect today, but real. And I can tell you, like, there's nothing, the emotions are very, very real,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they're mine and only mine, and only I can work with them and be with them and move from here.
Well, I think it's important to, acknowledge and recognize too that because you're more on the positive, upbeat, energy, that's just your natural energy. Um, that even, at the event you were at, you probably people picked up on it to some degree that
Probably.
you weren't kind of your normal Sondra self. And I think for when we come across people who are impatient, it's important to recognize that some people, impatience is a lifestyle. And some people might just have something going on that they're being shorter or more impatient because of some event that's going on in their life. But to have more, it's probably the hardest thing to have empathy for when somebody is showing up in an impatient way because it's part of the anger family. And it can, I mean, nothing can trigger anger more than somebody else's anger because we just have such a knee jerk reaction to it usually. And so to understand that, if someone especially if someone who's not normally impatient, that's not their regular routine, so to speak, that to give some grace. Actually, that's going to be one of the steps coming up later on,
Yeah,
but to
yeah.
give them grace, to give yourself grace if you're the one being impatient. um, and to recognize if someone has it as part of their kind of their makeup in their in their life, then there's something really kind of deeper going on in that they've been carrying around for a good long time. And it's going to be an old anger, right? An old something. It
Yeah.
could be rooted in something much more painful, hurt, grief. Anger is oftentimes a secondary emotion that's covering up a more vulnerable emotion that we don't want to put out there because anger, at least you feel like you still have some of your power. And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people go to anger when it's actually something else they're feeling, like sadness or hurt or
Sorrow.
grief or shame or embarrassment or whatever it
Yeah.
might be. So keeping that in mind as you're going through your own journey and talking to everybody, out there, your own journey of moving towards patience and healing your impatience, because it's a powerful, powerful energy, and it literally doesn't give up without a fight. So yeah, but
Great.
but again, the benefits. So part of, recognizing, well, why do, we've heard all our lives, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or right, the squeaky wheel
Yeah.
gets the grease or something like that. Yeah, well, not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes the squeaky wheel is just replaced with another wheel.
Mm.
You gotta really take all these things in context. But when we do become more patient, one of the things that we become better at is making decisions. Haste makes waste. That'll go
Yeah.
with impatience. We can make too quick of decisions if we're not patient enough to kind of think things through, things like that, to have the patience to kind of really look at both positives and negatives, the pros and cons of our decision making. uh, Especially like if we are parenting, then it's like, you're upset, you're impatient, you're grounded for, 5 years, well, that's not a good decision.
Yeah.
Right? So we can overreact in that place when it comes to what we're going to decide on. Obviously, relationships takes the biggest hit, whether it's the relationship with ourselves or the relationship with others, but that takes the biggest hit. So it improves our relationships because when you are patient with others, um, what is it that you're sending them on, really the message that you're sending them? So think about it this way. What is it like when people are patient with you? How do you feel?
You feel heard. You feel understood. You feel like they care. You feel like they're empathetic, like they're present, they're aware, they're with you.
And you're important
Hmm.
and you're valuable to take
Hmm.
the time to be with you, whatever that looks like. You know, my grandma was, I learned so much about patience, and it really came in later in life when I was a young mother with a young child. And I was dealing with my impatience head on as a parent because I was also a single parent. And, I literally got on the floor, and I was not a prayer at the time. I didn't pray. I got on my knees and I put my hands up on my bed, and I'm just like, I prayed for patience. I prayed for patience from such a deep place. And that's when all these signs started coming in. That was a poignant moment in my life because all these signs came in. But one of the things that happened was I made a connection. I won't go into all the read the book, but I won't go into all the
Yeah.
details. But basically, I was given an opportunity to connect in with my grandmother's energy, and she was so patient. And we used to play canasta, which is a card game you have a lot of cards in your hand. And my hands were too small when I was a little girl when I played with her, so I put it out on my seat so I could see all my cards. And one of the things that this was a week after I had prayed for patience, and what I said out loud was, my grandma had the patience of a saint. And what that did is it helped me to connect into what it felt like to have someone who was patient with me as a child or as an adult for that matter, and how loved I felt and how special I felt. And it was like, I can take all the time I need to do what I need to do to play this game.
Mm.
And she was just so wonderful at that. And that's actually helped me so much to find the patience within myself, because ultimately I wanted to make sure that my son felt loved and accepted and important and special and heard and seen and all those things. And my impatience was getting in the way. And
Oh.
so that was a really strong, you know, experience for me. But on the heels of asking, so praying too, pray,
Oh
intend.
my gosh, pray. Oh my gosh, pray. If I even what you're saying right now, so this kind of little mini breakdown to break through kind of um puts a lot of things in perspective in my life, in my husband's life. We are a unit.
Yep.
Um and just the kids, okay, so kids don't do what you tell them to do, they do what you do, right? And wow, I mean, that was like a whole, so here we are. We got home yesterday, and I was pretty. Um, my state of my state of mind was sorrow, and that's just kind of where I sat, and I was okay to sit right there because no one was gonna hurt me. God bless my husband. We had a Super Bowl party, and I just wasn't there, so I couldn't be there. I mean, I just couldn't. I couldn't be there, and so the kids, and I think actually, Lisa, now that we're going to back this thing up a little bit, I think what really got me was the patience with Aurora from the first night. That's what really started to set my trajectory into a, why am I here? And the responsibility of parenting is so important. And the first night that we were here, we were away. Our new wonderful assistant, who I love and adore, and is exactly what we created, or what I created when we got into prayer mode for Sondra getting an assistant. Oh, did I pray? Um, Aurora was pretending she had strep throat, and there was all this drama. And I'm on the phone in a restaurant with some dear, dear friends that we never get to see. And anyway, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I gotta go home. I can't be here. I can't be here when my daughter's faking it. Okay, but if she's really sick, then I definitely have to go. And what is she doing? Why is she doing this? And then to unpack that at the very end, she just wanted to stay home and play with Shelby all day. She just wanted to play. So, but that's kind of what started the whole impatience and what is happening and loss of control, and then the anger comes, because yeah, anger is a funny, just be aware, because when it pops up, it feels to me with anger, and kind of you touched on it too, when we get to that point of like, "Rah!" It's like our last bite at control.
Yeah.
It's like the last thing we have before we lose it, right? And then I lost it, got underneath it all, and it turned into sorrow, and it's totally okay. But yeah, patience, right? So I, why do kids do that to us?
Because as I have talked about in other at other times, there is a scene in Evan Almighty where Morgan Freeman plays God, and he's sitting down with the wife, and she's saying, I prayed for our family to become closer, and we're now apart." And he said, "Well, do you think when you pray to God for, was it courage? I think it was he started out with that he just gives you courage, or does it give you the opportunity to be courageous? Do you
Right.
think if you pray for patience, he just gives you patience,
Yeah.
or does he give you the opportunity to be patient?"
Hmm.
So, that's what our kids do.
Yeah. God
They
bless
give
them
us
so much.
lots of opportunities to
Yes.
be to become more patient.
Yeah.
That's certainly how I got to it. That's how I got to it, was by having a child.
Yeah, and something else to think about, and I'll come back because I'm just bouncing right off of a corporate experience, is that um, I have been blessed beyond so many opportunities over the 20 years I've been part of this amazing, amazing company. And you're sitting in front of the richest man in all of Idaho, and he is listening. He is looking at you. There is no one else. And our new CEO, same thing. Like, you are there, he is, and it doesn't matter if we're on a 10-minute phone call or an hour long phone call. They're the presence in these masterful executives and beyond in the business realm. It's like this, they've perfected patience, and in kind of with a little thread of humility in there, and just an acute. It's almost like me questioning, why am I human? Why am I here? Who am I? um they really want to understand. And I
Mhm.
think that that's it. People want to, and I do too. I would like to think that I'm a really good listener, and it's mostly because I'm so interested in, what is other people's perception of their own reality. I find it fascinating. The only way you're ever going to get there is to listen, when someone's talking. And that's that level of patience that, if you've ever experienced it,
Yeah.
it's undescribable because it feels so good.
Well, and you have to practice. So because of what I do with coaching, and most of my coaching is one-on-one, and obviously sometimes groups, because I practice listening so much. And
Yeah.
not just listening to the words, but listening, the active listening, the intuitive listening, there's a whole lot that goes into just listening. And if you've got stuff going on up here, you're thinking about this or this or this or this, you'll be called out.
Mhm.
And so to be present, you got to be patient.
Yeah.
So my patience, not only from, parenting really kicked it off, is my road towards patience. But then I chose an occupation, a career where listening is one of the biggest things you do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, now going on, 18 years now of coaching and practicing, so much of that. And you really have to listen. Otherwise, how are you going to help somebody or understand somebody if you aren't listening? But it's a skill. So
Yeah.
yeah, so in coaching, obviously I wouldn't still be coaching if I wasn't a good listener.
Right.
I mean, actually an excellent listener,
Mhm.
not just
Yeah.
a good listener, but an excellent listener, because you're looking for things, little like clues to what's really going on. So it's like a hyper listening almost. Now,
Well, yeah, you were sitting there watching me. Sondra, would you like to go through a process?
yeah,
And it was such a hard, almost didn't even need to ask,
hmm, hmm,
but just in case you did,
hmm,
but you knew,
yeah,
that,
yeah,
ooh, because you weren't just listening. I wasn't even saying anything.
right, yeah. Oh
It
no,
was, you were,
it was all over your
yeah,
face and just all that. But so, but in relationships, especially with our children and the people closest to us, including our spouses, that impatience will shut off your ears faster than anything else. And that's why relationships is such a major part of the benefits of patience, because it will be your greatest connector to those you love. And when we are impatient with others, it means there is a level of impatience we have with ourselves. And as you heal this impatience, because it really is healing it, especially if it's something that's, ongoing, and healing whatever that either anger or something deeper below it, when that becomes more healed, patience will actually come easier because you're
Hmm.
actually healing what's at the root of it.
Yeah.
And then then it will increase the connection you have with the relationships in your life. It will, so kind of bring in some of these other benefits so we can move along here, but it will lead to your better health. When your nervous system is fried, how it's really hard to have patience, right? Because your nervous system is being taxed. So patience actually strengthens your nervous system, which is what's making your whole body work, at an
Mm.
optimum level. That's why people have nervous breakdowns, because they're taxing their nervous system. So it leads to that, and obviously mental health. So physical health and then mental health. Well, impatience, you're when you're rattled, when you're internally pushing, and in a hurry and all that kind of stuff, you're not thinking as clearly, because that's all getting in the way. And that you certainly don't have the inner peace. So that will bring more inner peace. And then, of course, just your emotional well being. It's all connected. It's all connected.
All
If you don't have a
connected.
mental and emotional well being, your body is going to be taking some sort of hit on
Yep.
that. Again, high blood pressure, nervous system, heart, whatever it is, your body, if you're walking around with a tight body, which is definitely impatience will lead to, is this tightness in your chest, in your stomach, wherever it is. And then that can lead to all sorts of health conditions. So
Yep.
it's very, very connected.
Yep.
So again, there's it's like exercise, we all know we need to do it, but at the
Yeah.
same time, there's all sorts of benefits to it, but that doesn't mean we necessarily are. Well, here's the same thing. Your choice. Everyone is a choice when it comes to patience. You can either choose to move towards patience, or you can choose to continue to feed into the impatience. But one of the other benefits, and we'll move on then to kind of the process of moving towards patience, and that is gratitude.
Ha!
And so, we're so sometimes consumed in striving and, towards whatever it is, accumulating, either wealth or accumulating, relationships or whatever it is. And then kind of a more of a, I gotta know, like, for instance, relationships that could show up. Well, I'm going to go networking. I have to meet as many people as I can so that I'm networking and I know everybody, and that'll build my business. And that's not the way to go about it. Right. So, but that impatience is like, you know what? It's going to take time to start to make connections in the networking community and create more a depth of relationship and quality relationships. And then we'll go much further than knowing 100 people a tiny little bit. And they're going to feel they're going to feel it. Oh, they're
Hmm.
just trying to make another networking connection. So, referral source, instead of, no, I really want to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I really want to create a strong connection so that we can build both of our businesses.
Right.
You can still have that as one of the
Classic
goals.
networking 101 right there.
Yeah, and then
Classic.
when you're not so striving to accumulate all this stuff,
Hmm.
then you're more appreciative for what you've already accumulated, what you already have in your life.
Yep.
All those connections that you've made over time.
Hmm.
So,
Gratitude is that's it. That's the magic pill. Almost for
mhm,
everything, actually.
yeah. And just like with everything, embracing the process is a big part of patience, because patience is about process, not the outcome.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's what people have the hardest time with. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough whatever. And I got to go, go, go. I'm not productive enough. The not enough stuff lives in impatience.
Oh my gosh, bingo. I was
Yeah.
waiting for you to get there.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get my thoughts into words because I'm a little on the slow side right about now.
Yeah.
But yes, not enough.
Hmm.
And as I sit and watch the world around me, mostly through the lens of the people closest in my proximity, um, it's and also in my business too. The impatience, right? I want to be And we always used to say, like, there's this open, first start position that you get to, and then the rest of the entire compensation plan is based off of this original one position, right? So
Mhm.
the people that would say, "Oh, I'm going to be the fastest person to X, Y, or Z. Like, I'm going to beat Alan there." La la la. We laugh. I don't think ever in one time in the entire time that I've been here, the person that says, "I'm going to be the fastest person to corporate director," right? And they never get to the first position. They're focused on the okay, have a dream, but get some reality too. And not enough. It's like this whole, right now for me personally, I'm in this process of like, I just need to slow it down. I have been running my whole life, whether it's corporate business. I mean, I am driven, I am running, I am finding answers, I am all of that, and now I need to stop, slow it down. Take some of these, hire an assistant, stop, slow it down.
Mhm.
Because I'm moving so fast that I'm missing it. And like, I mean, I could go back to Aurora because she's such a great baseline for me, is that I'm missing it. I'm not present. And so what happens then? All of I'm not enough and patience and like, and so there's this like, and I'm just giving an example because there's a lot of those personality traits that I'm not enough, or I'm not far enough, or I'm not further enough along, or I'm not, where I want to be, or, so I'm going to cram my calendar in, but there's no quality. So if you have a full packed calendar, you've been teaching me this for years. I think I actually finally got it, right? Eat the frog. We've talked about this, I'm sure, in one of our podcasts so far. Brian Tracy's Eat the Frog, right? How do you eat a frog? One bite at a time. Like there's no secret to it, right? I probably, if I'm going to really eat a frog, you got to start with the most disgusting part, which would be the stomach. But anyway,
Well,
so
yeah. So you got the white, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? But eat that frog is going for the things that you
things,
resist the most
yes,
and
and
eat the
doing
biggest,
that first.
ugliest frog first because that's the one that's
Right,
going to move you furthest.
right,
And we eat all the tiny little frogs, right?
right.
And so, but yeah, we make a little progress, but the real progress is tackling that big ugly frog first.
Tackling the big ugly frog, right?
Mhm.
No, the stomach. So anyway, like as you kind of look at things, and I Alan and I were just having a conversation about time speeding up.
Yeah.
Time is speeding up. Okay, so time is speeding up. How does that present uh in life? Well, it actually is speeding up, and now I can't regurgitate why, the actual science behind it, but it's the way that our solar system is spinning within our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, around the central galactic sun. Like it's a whole thing, and there's a science to it.
Mhm.
And now we are kind of boomeranging back out, or back in, which is speeding. It's a weird thing to go, that's what happened on December 21st, 2012. But we're feeling the impact of that literally right now as time starts to, and again, we all kind of start to awaken into all of this. Um, anyway, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but anyway, we don't
Well,
need to
you
use
well,
the
you
big,
tack on everyone's need to hurry, which would make sense if energetically, planetarily, however you want to say it,
yes,
if time truly is accelerating, and now we have technology and everyone's so this frenetic hurry all the time, and this which can be chaotic, but in this speeded up way of living, I mean, it's accelerating already. Let's not even make it faster and miss
yes,
life, right?
yes, yes, because
Because
we're,
it's
we're all missing it.
yeah.
And my phone is now attached to a little tripod thing. Anyway, like you pick up your phone and you go, oh dear, like it can suck you all the way in. and
Mhm.
and just being present, like when I'm
Mhm.
sitting in corporate conferences, my husband and I are in the front row. You have to put it down. Like, which is like, it's a huge relief to just go, I'm not a slave to my phone. And even one of the people that I was following who was in Egypt in the beginning of December, um, it they went on this whole experience through the pyramids and no social media at all.
Mhm.
And this group of people that went were all social media influencers, if you will. I hate that word. But anyway, yeah, everybody turned. Can you imagine the experience they had just by shutting it down?
Yeah.
They were present in the moment, and that's how they started to see the
Yeah.
images of what were actually there.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well,
Amazing.
everything is at our fingertips for the most part. We have
Mhm.
such a need. Look at TikTok. That's why TikTok is so popular. I don't even go on TikTok because it's like it's not really my thing. But I
Yeah.
mean, you've got what? It's not even 7 seconds anymore. It's like half a second. If you can't get it in half a second, then they're off to something else.
Wow.
And so our attention spans have become so limiting, and our ability to focus and absorb and really, incorporate what it is that we're seeing and what it is that we're learning and hearing, because we're all so just bing, 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 like pinball machines, just all over the place and scattered and can't focus and can't stay present and all these things. So it's really important for people to understand that they can get swept up in that and they're going to lose their power. They're going to
Oh
lose their
yeah.
power
Yeah.
because there's no power in impatience. You might feel powerful being angry, but that's not real. That is you not being in your power and losing your patience.
Right.
Patience is where the power is.
Yeah.
And when you can keep it longer, which is, I think, obviously people are, because people are hanging around for longer podcasts now. So there is a yearning for more depth and quality in the information that's coming out, that's not just so easily flip, 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 to one thing
Yep.
to another. um yeah, so that's again another thing is you're building up resilience. You're actually more productive when you're patient, because so many people are looking for the hacks and the shortcuts and all this, and there's just some things you just can't hack. There are some things you can, but there's just sometimes you just got to sit down and do the work.
Yeah.
And know how to find your pace. And but the whole impatient thing is going to keep you from really getting the quality of your life that you really want. So,
Okay, so best example.
hmm
I can't find my keys.
hmm
Or what was it the first time that you and I really went through this in patience with me? I couldn't find a
oh, a
file of
folder. It was a folder. It was like you came for the consultation. This is back in 2011, I think, and you came for the consultation. And after that, I had gone over, the need to figure things out and whatever. And you were trying to find a paper around your house or something that like that in a folder, and you were shuffling through and in a
oh
hurry trying to find it and whatever, and then you recalled what we talked about in the consultation, and then Alan asked you, what do you do, what did you find that thing? No, no, I'm letting it go. I'm letting go the need to figure it out. I'm letting go the need to hurry, and I'm just going to let it
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And then you went back to it and you went right to where you needed it, which was you had already shuffled through it several times
I just didn't see
and
it.
didn't see it because you were,
Yeah.
again, in a hurry.
Yeah.
Which, hurried is
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
part of impatience, right? And so you slowed down and ended up finding it. That
And
was
I
the,
think
it's like,
that's from way back when, but I
yeah.
have used it so many times when I can't find my phone, my keys, my this, my that, my next thing. And, slow it down, stop for a minute, and then let it go.
Mhm.
Because the more you're resisting, the more
Yeah.
impatient you are, the more panicked you get, the
Mhm.
more angry you get. You can't find X, Y, or Z or whatever the situation is. Like that might be something funny for all of you to just kind of sit with through the week, because that's the easiest thing when I bump up against impatience is like, I'm always like, where did I put that? Why? Because we're not present
Mhm.
in the moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'm a pretty present in the moment kind of person, but
Mhm. Yeah.
the technology is making everybody so,
We've got our work cut out for us for sure.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
use it to our advantage.
Mhm.
Use
Even
it to our advantage.
even with the artificial intelligence, right? The AI. I can't remember his name. Robert Greene, I think he wrote. He's a best-selling author. Um, but he was talking about how people don't even need to think anymore, let alone slow down. They can just type stuff in and then so the ability to actually be a critical thinker, to think of stuff on your own, to take the time to build these skill sets and have that's going to be a whole nother. We talk about acceleration. leaped forward with this
Mhm.
AI, and the people who are going to just allow everything else think for them, including artificial intelligence, you're going to get dumber. You're going to
Yeah.
get so dependent.
Well, it's those goggles. Have you seen these people with the goggles on?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's here.
No, yeah, no
So,
judgment,
yeah,
but
it's
you
here, but don't just
yeah.
give all your power away to things. You still keep your own um, ability to think and write.
Yep.
I mean, I was writing way before, AI came along. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can write 5 books in 10 hours, and it's like, but no, 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 no. And plus, when it
Mhm.
comes out, you want to it's your energy into it.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so but that's something to consider, and because impatience also has so much to do with feeling out of control. That's one of
Mm.
the things that can trigger impatience, is I don't have control over this. Either things aren't moving fast enough. Think about being in traffic, and
Yeah,
your
yeah.
hands are getting
Road
tight. You're getting
rage.
like trying to, what do you think is, tightening
Yeah,
up on the wheel is going to make a difference? That's not
yeah.
going to make a difference, but it's our way of tightening up, wanting control, and then even pushing on the steering wheel. Like, that's not going to do anything.
Oh,
But it's our
yeah.
way of kind of expressing it, right? And then
Cutting somebody off will
cursing at all the traffic. Yeah.
where are you going? Like,
Yeah.
how far are you gonna get? Like,
Yeah.
that's another one of those easy things. Like, where's my keys? Right? Just
Mhm.
go driving. Right? And
Well,
acutely aware.
you'll
Like,
get a
where are you going?
snapshot. You'll get a snapshot
Yeah,
of how impatient you are through
yeah,
driving,
yeah.
and recognize that, especially if it's common. I mean, everyone, I think, gets, ticked off at drivers once in a while. We're talking about when you are like, you tailgate people, you you got to get, all that kind of stuff. It's a spectrum.
Yo,
It's a spectrum. Are you
right.
low end of the spectrum? Or are you high end of the spectrum? Are you moving towards patience or impatience? And so it's recognizing that, and that driving is a good way to get a little taste of where you might be
Yep,
at.
yep,
So, so
totally.
to begin the journey towards patience, it's to first of all reflect on, these different things that are happening, to kind of reflect on it before you take steps towards changing it. And the first thing is to know, what are your triggers, what are the things that lead you to impatience, and start to evaluate what those things are. Obviously, parenting, you say, well, when my son is slow getting out the door in the morning, that really triggers my impatience. That certainly was one of mine. I
Yep.
think a pretty common one.
Mhm.
People driving too slow in front of you, that can trigger your impatience. I mean, so first of all, kind of identify some of these things that,
Mhm.
are, which really activate that impatience. It could be setting unrealistic expectations. Like,
Yeah,
even with your company, well, I'm going to get the fastest to whatever,
yeah.
position it is. It's like, but have you even done this before? Do you know the process? Do you know
Yeah,
what it entails?
yeah.
And so that could be an unrealistic expectation. And now it's going to work against you because you are not in line with reality a lot of the times, but an expectation that would actually serve that person. Are you impatient with, you know, yourself?
Mhm.
And that's a big one,
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier. So work on it both ways, work on it externally and work on it internally. And that will
Mhm.
greatly accelerate. You'll move faster by
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
See, the need to hurry, which is such a trigger for so many people when it comes to impatience. So that need to hurry is slowing you down,
Way down.
way down. Because what you're doing when you have a need to hurry is you are resisting the feeling of slow or behind or not enough or whatever it is. And the more you resist whatever that feeling is, that emotion, you are now increasing its power. So you become more behind. You become, you end up
Oh,
slowing things down. And traffic is, again, such a great example for this subject, because
yeah.
think about it. When you're in a hurry, you hit all the red lights, you hit the slow traffic, you hit the detours, you're low on gas, you got to stop and
All
get
the
gas.
things.
You get pulled over for a ticket. This
Yep.
is all the kind of stuff. Now think of just going on a nice leisurely drive on a Sunday drive.
Yeah.
It's green lights, there's hardly any traffic, whatever, it's when you're not in a hurry that you're just, there it is. Um, okay, so I got to share this one because it was just so funny. Because I've been saying using that as an example for years about
It's a
losing
great
track of
example.
right?
Everybody can relate to
So
that.
here's the funniest thing. I actually took a picture. Oh, my phone, so I can't show you, but maybe I'll put it in post. But I was heading to Lisa and Jesse Farrell's house, and I was, like just a few minutes, but I like to be on time, right? So I stop at this light and I see this like work truck to the left of me coming out of the side street. And I my light turned green and I was being in a little bit of my hurry mode,
Mhm.
and it not only pulls in front of me, it actually stops. It stopped because it was there to fix the light, I guess.
Oh
And I'm
dear.
like, "Oh, this is hilarious." I could at least see what was happening. I'm like, "Here I am. I've got my need to hurry." And not only do I not get behind a slow vehicle, I
I
get
did
behind
get
a
behind us.
stopped vehicle. And they're not moving at all. And then there's traffic on the right of me, so I couldn't even move over. I'm like, "Okay, process." Let go of your need to hurry. You're gonna get there when you get there. It
Right.
was hilarious. Anyway, so that was a funny traffic
At
story.
least you found the humor in it.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so I mean, of
Oh,
course, as soon as I got there, I'm like, "You're not this is" I shared the story. Of course, they were fine with that, but anyway.
that's
So
funny.
know your triggers.
That was my weird airport experience yesterday. I couldn't find the parking lot, but
Yeah.
whatever. And it was by the time I'm texting you on the airplane, I'm just laughing at the sheer comedy of how excruciating that
Yeah.
was to be like so lost. Anyway, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so the truck stopped right in front of you. Oh,
It
that's
was
now just
so
comedy.
oh my gosh, it is. It was total comedy. Total
Yeah.
comedy. So, the second thing to reflect on is to consider the negative consequences of your impatience. Again, this is where a lot of those relationships you'll
Mhm.
start to make connection to because it can affect, obviously, we've talked about it, how it can affect our relationships in such a negative way. But also, it can affect our business in a negative way. It can
Mhm.
affect our health in a negative way. And so to really contemplate what is the price someone is paying or that you all out there listening are paying, because there is definitely a cost, and it can be a pretty hefty price
Yeah.
that we place on that, on our lives in all areas of our life really, when we are keeping towards the track of impatience.
Yeah.
So
For sure. For
and
sure.
then, determine step 3 in reflecting is determine how impatience affects you emotionally.
Mhm.
Are you at your best? Are you centered? Are you grounded? Heck no, not when you're impatient.
Mhm.
And when we're grounded and when we're more relaxed, our mind, our emotions, we do better. We perform better in whatever it is, our business or whatever it is. We communicate more effectively. Our body is in more of a state of, peace. So we are nurturing our body when we're patient as well.
Yep. Our emotions are such great indicators.
Yeah. And here's another thing too, is what does impatience lead to on an emotional level as well? So think about getting impatient with your child. Well, it follows that. Guilt.
Yep.
Ugh,
Oh God, I love it. Low frequency.
yeah.
Low frequency emotion. Ah.
And then you could go into
Which
beating
then goes
yourself
into the
up.
shame. Oh, you can get all stuffed up
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, every choice we make leads somewhere. And when we can see the consequences of our choices, they will reflect back to us the quality of the choice we made before we experienced the consequence. So reflect on the consequences of your choice to move towards impatience,
Mhm.
because I think that's one of the strongest things to recognize. My results by being impatient. Wow. Really? Am I going to continue to choose this? This is causing pain. It's causing pain internally, it's causing pain externally.
Right.
It's decreasing the quality of someone's life. So,
All the way around.
which is why, it's probably one of the more challenging ones, but to overcome. But at the same time, the consequence will bring it into perspective, a big overview of your life. Get connected to that big picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next thing to reflect on is just the thoughts associated with your impatience. Is your belief that others are incompetent? That'll bring up
Well,
some
they are.
impatience.
Well, they absolutely are.
But why would you want to lose your power because someone else isn't in their power?
Right. No,
Right? Yeah.
couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I just
Yeah.
couldn't
Well,
resist.
there's incompetent people, all sorts of incompetent people on the planet, but I don't want to give them, my
Your
power.
power, for sure. For
And
sure.
then, think about that. How did they become incompetent?
Mm,
Maybe they were told, maybe they had an impatient person in their life that really kept knocking them down and telling them that they can't do stuff good enough or whatever it is. So that incompetence isn't necessarily always about intelligence, it can be about conditioning as well.
yep. Hurt people hurt people.
And then they will manifest more people that will be impatient with them to see them as incompetent because they're in their journey of probably
Yeah.
overcoming incompetence. So
Yep.
there's always so many layers to look at and so many perspectives to see it in.
Yeah.
It could be that others just don't get it. They don't get something. I've heard that one a lot. Well, they just don't get it. Okay, well, then learn how to communicate better.
Yeah.
It
Get
gives
more
you an
detail.
opportunity to communicate more effectively.
Get more detailed and specific.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep.
and then just see, are you tracking? Are you picking up what I'm putting down, or are we lost in the weeds? Like, where are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Another is, if you don't get somewhere at a certain amount of, the hurry thing, if you don't get there, you might feel like, well, I might, I don't know, be late to a meeting or I might be, late to something and then I'll be embarrassed or whatever it is if I don't arrive on time or I might miss an opportunity or whatever it is. But sometimes, and this is something that I just shared in the parenting class, but when my son was around 4 or 5 years old, I don't remember when you come out of a car seat, but he was still in a car seat, so he was younger. And I was in a hurry to go everywhere. It was just my makeup.
I was in the hurry to go to the gas station.
Yeah, and we were going literally to the grocery store. But to get out
Yeah.
the door, come on, Eric, let's go, let's go. Got to go to the grocery store. Got to go to the grocery store. And I didn't have anything after that. But so he's in the back seat and he says to me, Mommy, why are we always in such a hurry?
Ugh.
And it absolutely stopped me in my tracks. It was such a significant moment. I wrote about it in my book. I've talked
Mhm.
about it whenever I talk about this subject because they say out of the mouths of babes, it was it was almost like his higher self was coming through and saying, I might be
Lesson.
4 or 5 years old, but you need to hear this message.
Yeah. Lesson.
And I
Lesson.
did. And it
Lesson.
stopped me. And I looked in the rearview mirror and I said, I don't know. I didn't know.
Right.
Why am I always in such a hurry? I really didn't know, but it was so conditioned and I was so, just part of how I lived life. It got me to reflect pretty deeply. And I think it was around that time I did that whole patience prayer. It's all in the same time frame,
Yeah. Hit your
right?
knees and you
Hit my knees.
wash your
Why,
hands
God, am
and
I
you
always in such a hurry and impatient? Yeah.
yeah.
So again, reflect. You can't get
Yeah.
there if you're not becoming more aware and reflecting on what it is you're actually doing that's not serving you.
And can I just say, be gentle with yourself. This
Mhm.
is such an intense process of becoming the sleuth and really taking, the magnifying glass into
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah.
And so all of these little things that you and I talk about are just little instances that are pretty much across the board, right?
Mhm.
I've been in a hurry to get to the gas station with nothing else afterwards.
Yeah.
I think when I say I've been running,
Yeah.
like at, 100 miles an hour, if not faster than that. And so it's not serving,
Mhm.
but be gentle on yourself as you go through this journey of self exploration and trying to understand some of the emotions. And the only way you ever get to the other side of it is to sit with it until it makes crystal clear sense and starting to put the little pieces together, which is why you and I are doing this.
Yeah. And the last thing to reflect on, not that there's not more, but for today,
Yeah.
is explore your self-care routine.
Ah, I said that by accident.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? I said that without even like, because impatience and patience and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
Us even talking about it could get you there. Like,
Yeah.
but wait, don't do that. Yes, self care.
Are
Very
you getting
important.
enough sleep?
Yep.
Right? Because you're crankier when you're not sleeping. They even make commercials for the Snickers bar around hangry, with
Hangry. Hangry. Yeah.
hangry, right? So are you eating right? Are
Yeah.
you getting exercise, which also releases stuff so that you don't keep it all pent up inside? Do you take breaks throughout your day, or are you just a pusher? You push, 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 push all throughout your day in a hurry, right? You're
Yeah.
just all that
In a hurry.
energy. Yeah, so then you're hurried and you're pushing,
Yeah.
and so forth. So it's, develop a routine to take care of yourself, because then you will be, it will help to make the the journey
Yes.
from impatience to patience.
And
Otherwise, you're just
I will
working against
say,
yourself. Mhm,
I will say breathe.
mhm. Well, that's coming up. That's a step. Let's
Oh, okay.
Those were the reflections. So those are
Yeah.
5 reflection things to
Yeah.
reflect on. And then you can take breath, but that's so one of the things, the steps. Now, we're gonna go over 4 steps, which we kinda covered a little bit already, but, into, moving more towards patience. So,
Mhm.
Sondra, the first one is
Breathe.
breathe.
Breathe,
Yeah.
breathe, breathe. You and I've already talked about this in countless podcasts that when we get into a kind of I'll just say nervous, but it could be many, many words, just,
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
instantly changes your physiology to a point where whatever the emotion is not so intense.
Yeah. And what you'll find when you remind yourself to breathe. I mean, people are so low on breathing that they need a contraption to breathe at night, because
Yeah.
there's some sort of stuff going on,
Yep.
on a conditioning level, that they're actually not breathing. But some people breathe, hold their breath, or breathe really shallow throughout their day, not even in a sleep setting. So when you go to take a breath, you might find that you were holding your breath. You
Yeah.
might find that you were breathing so shallow. And
Yeah.
so just taking that deep breath, you're going down and you're really pulling in that life force energy. And so that alone can be such a calming step. In fact, the Andrew Huberman, which is, really, he's just like one of the number one podcasts out there right now, but he's a neuroscientist. That's what he is, a
Neuroscientist.
neuroscientist.
Yeah.
And he has all sorts of stuff on breathing, and he's got a whole nother, like, a technique about breathing, how to calm yourself right away. Um, and so forth. I don't remember it offhand, but I've looked at it before, and it's a certain breathing pattern. But ultimately, just taking a deep breath, that'll work.
That'll
I mean,
work.
that'll work. At least it'll help.
Yeah.
It may
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
completely remove it, but
Yeah.
it's moving you towards
Right.
taking a step back, taking a deep breath.
Bringing more
So forth.
oxygen into your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the whole paper bag thing,
Yeah.
that doesn't do anything. All it's doing is just remind you to breathe deep.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
magic to the brown paper bag.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
concentrated breathing. The next step is to scan your body and
Yep.
find the tightness. Because in patients, you'll probably have tightness in your chest or somewhere in your body. You could even be clenching your teeth. You could be tightening your fists, your hands. You can feel it maybe in your neck and in your shoulders. And so once you find the tightness, then you want to start
Move it around.
loosen up and
Yeah.
start to drop down into that tightness so it can release, because that's your body saying, we are probably in survival mode right now. We are under threat, whatever
Or
that
you're
is.
not.
That's what
Yeah.
the body goes into. You're not really, but
Yeah.
your
Right.
body's acting as if you
Yeah.
are, because your mind is acting as if you are, and your impatience is acting as if you are. So there you are in survival mode, not really in the executive center of your brain.
Yeah.
You're in the primitive center of your brain.
Yes. Yes.
And then step 3 is stay connected to the big picture. Especially when you're communicating, if you go into impatience, and if it's with your child or whoever it is, your spouse, stay connected to the big picture. Is this moving you towards where you want to go, or is this starting to disconnect you and go into destructive mode? Because impatience will lead to destructive mode. Am I destroying the relationship right now in this moment, or am I building this relationship?
Yeah.
And so it's either gonna be weakening it or strengthening it, and impatience will always move you towards weakening it.
Yep.
And then the last step is give yourself, and you've mentioned this earlier, give yourself and those around you grace.
Grace. Yes.
Because if you really are living with a lot of impatience, you aren't giving yourself grace. I already know that.
I know. And I was just going to say, more important than others around you. Yes, that too. Yourself first.
Yeah.
It is the absolute cliche. You know, the
Mhm.
airplane pops out the oxygen masks. I got to say, this is the
That's
funny,
right.
this is my second plane ride in 3 weeks to hear the,
Mhm.
the flight attendant say, and if you are wearing a mask, remove the mask to put on the mask. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really funny. Okay. But either way, you save yourself first.
Yeah.
You save yourself first, because if you can give yourself grace by just the reflection of the emotion on those around you, they will feel it. And you almost won't need to give them grace, because they will feel the grace coming off of you, and it will percolate.
Yeah.
So save yourself, be gentle, be kind to yourself
Mhm.
first.
Yeah. Because impatience moves grace out of the picture. And
Impatience ain't got no
patience
time for grace.
and patience allows it to, even if you've okay, here's a really important point. If you find yourself in impatience, doesn't mean game over. It means you now get to make a different choice. If you have the awareness, oh, I'm acting from impatience right now, you have the ability to change the trajectory of that decision and move into a new decision, which is now take a deep breath, take a step back, check your body, get connected to the big picture, and give yourself some grace. So now you can make a different decision. And then you move into patience. And if it needs an apology along with it, then make that apology.
Yeah.
If you're, in a communication type, you know what, I really let my impatience get the better of me, and that's not truly what I want, but it's kind of powerful and I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Then just it's okay to say that. See, that's the
And that's
vulnerable.
really okay to say to your kids too.
Yes.
And I really have, like, if I'm struggling with any of that and that pops up, that's I owe them apology, and I
Hmm.
and I do, you know,
Yeah.
and because ain't no perfectionist, ain't no perfect going on over here
Yeah.
or anywhere.
Right.
We are humans, and it's possible. So whether it's to your spouse, significant other, your children, or your animals.
Yes. Well, they get the brunt of our impatience at times too. Well,
Yeah.
and here's another thing as well, is remember, sometimes we go to anger because we don't want to feel a more vulnerable emotion. And so we can get stuck in our pride, we can get stuck in our position with impatience, which is why if you can catch it and correct it, you'll most likely, the next step is going to a place more of vulnerability,
Yeah.
which is uncomfortable, but that's part of it.
That's part of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you
Mhm.
everybody for sitting with me in my vulnerableness.
Yes.
Because
You,
let's be real.
that's right. And you did awesome coming off, an intense weekend.
Yeah, an intense
So,
weekend. So I hope next week I'll be much more in my lighter side, but if I'm not, that's okay too.
well, you felt pretty light to me. So,
Very good.
yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. Be sure again, like, subscribe, and share if you feel so inclined. And I just want to say I appreciate everybody who's listening. So thank you.